Hi, friends. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Wonder. We have a special guest on this episode today. This is a celebrity mindset coach who goes by the name of Laura St. John, and she's a wonderful soul. We just started chatting a little bit before this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's fun to get to know you. Let me record getting to know you a little bit here. So, Laura, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today.
Nicky, I'm so excited to be here. I just love seeing you on social media,
Oh
and
my
I'm like,
gosh.
we're very similar.
Yes, you're so sweet. Like we've literally met for like 5 seconds, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this soul already. She's super cool. So I guess like we are just meeting, so I could ask you this, but obviously I follow you and I know who you are. So for I guess the listener who's like, who's Laura St. John? And if you were meeting someone, they're interested in what you do in the world, and then they had all these kind of questions for you, what would be your answer to that?
I love that. I am a mindset coach. I help people get unstuck. I help people really see past their current struggles, and I help people, create the reality that's beyond that struggle and tap into that version of them now.
Oh my gosh, isn't that what we all need in the world right now?
Yes. I love your messages of unity.
Yes. Oh yeah. I recently, I got a little hesitant to post that. I don't know why, but I'm like, I gotta start like posting about, us as a collective unifying, that we're all brothers and sisters on this planet. So thank you for sharing that. What does that mean? Like if someone's like, oh my gosh, that's really cool, and they're like, but what does that mean as far
Sure.
as what you do in the world?
I mean, most people have a very clear picture and can get very down into the details of where they're feeling stuck. So when people find me, usually to manifest a new result, they're much clearer on what they don't want, all the things that are going wrong, and they're often on a journey of self-awareness. They're usually very in tune with I must be a cooperative component and this result that I keep getting, why do I keep manifesting this do-over or result over and over again? And quite honestly, they're feeling really stuck. They're feeling sometimes powerless and weak in that moment. And I'm here to help them flip it to the opposite. So I always say stuck is just a feeling. Unstuck is also a feeling. Let me help you get unstuck with empowering you with tools that you can do it yourself.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So like that stuck feeling. Would you say, because, obviously we can all relate to it. I know I for sure can relate to that stuck feeling where it kind of feels icky. It feels as if sometimes it feels like it's never ending, like there isn't a solution. Do you feel as if those stuck moments in our life or those seasons are happening for us?
Absolutely. I usually think that when you get to the point where you're consciously aware of what you're stuck in and you're ready to create change, it should feel very sick and tired. It should feel very
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. And, that's when you're energetically very close to courage. And a lot of people act from their stuck energy, from anger, from a point of I'm like, I don't like this anymore. So I'm going to change this relationship. I'm going to change this job. I'm going to create change here. But they're doing it often from the energy of fear and doubt or resentment, and it perpetuates that manifestation. It will continue to remanifest itself. So I help people out of that. I love when people are really really consciously aware of stuck and they're sick and tired of feeling that feeling. That's usually when people find me, because otherwise if you're just stuck in hopelessness and despair and these lower energies of guilt and shame, not that you're not going to move out of that, but you have to at some point get really sick and tired of it to create the change that you want to create.
Yeah, I can relate to that feeling being sick and tired. And then you get sick and tired and then sick and tired again. And again, sometimes it takes like the 10th sick and tired to be like, okay, I'm gonna do something about this. And it's wonderful that there's souls like you out there in the world that we can turn to and be like, hey, I'm stuck. Help. Capital letters HELP. Help.
Well, that's the ultimate thing that I teach is self-trust. So self-trust is the highest manifestation of self-love. And even though you can realize in that moment you're not condoning the situation, or maybe you no longer want to tolerate something that is misaligned to where you are now and where you want to be moving forward, you can start to learn that if you accept yourself and trust you're exactly where you're meant to be in this moment, right? Stuck is just a feeling, then you can really accept yourself not condone the things outside of you, but you can really accept yourself, which is love yourself more in that moment. And that starts opening the path to getting unstuck.
Okay, this is really beautiful. Everything you're saying, like, and I want you to re-say it because I'm going to butcher it. But you said it was it faith or trust is the highest expression of self-love and manifest. Can you say that again? Because
Yeah,
I
sure.
think people need to get
Self-trust.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the undercurrent of all of my lessons that I teach to the planet has a complete undercurrent of trust, because trust is the highest manifestation of self-love. And when you can trust yourself, you don't have to look outside of the external circumstances that you're in or the conditions you no longer want to tolerate. That's where the frustration is helpful. You could be like, I don't want this. This is misaligned to what feels true to my heart, what feels true about where I want to be going. So you can see the misalignment and then stop judging yourself. You can stop rejecting yourself. You can stop going down into like guilt and shame or doubt and swirling in the wishy-washiness of like, which path should I choose or what should I do? And when you can accept yourself in the moment, and you can still reject what's going on outside of you, but you can love on yourself, you are really sinking into self-trust. And that is, again, that's, everything that I teach is trust yourself, trust in the process, trust you're exactly where you're meant to be in this moment. And stuck is just a feeling like, let's get unstuck. Because once you can open the path from acceptance of who you are, despite what's going on outside of you or what's being tossed at you, you can really empower yourself.
Alrighty, y'all. We're all getting a session here, so this is great. I'm like, I'm in a session. This is so beautiful.
Let's work on you.
I know. I'm like, oh, this is so good. I find like the frustrations I guess I've had in my own life is, and this is the question. This is going to lead to my next question because I'm sure other people can relate to this. I'm sure you can throughout your journey, right? You trust, you trust, you trust, you trust, and it almost feels like the universe is like, okay, trust again, trust again, trust again. So does that process become easier? And I guess the follow up question is, how does one begin to? Because like what I've discovered is you can 99% trust, but the universe will literally not bully you, but lovingly push you until you 100% connect with what you're calling self love, really, or trust, whatever that looks like for someone. How does someone 100% begin that process to trust themselves?
I love this question. It's so, so deep. And it's really about building, like it's are you testing yourself or are you really trusting yourself? I have a very deep lesson where I bring people through step.
Oh, this is
Are,
good.
are you testing? Are you even testing your trust? Because if you're
Fuck.
testing your trust, you're going to line up to that energetic amount. So if you're like 98% trusting, but 2% not, that test is going to show up in the 2%. Fear will slip in that back door, right? And like be like, hello, I'm back again. And that's so are you challenging your own trust inside your own self? Are you challenging your own intuition? Are you, allowing yourself to test your own, deeper voice? And I know you teach a lot of this too with intuitive, power. And
Yeah.
it's so critical because you're learning to trust yourself at a deeper level and it just keeps going deeper. So it's me and you talking like as intuitives that teach intuition, it's very natural to go into self-doubt and allow like the little ounce of doubt to seep in, because doubt is really the opposite, right, of
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
And so the moment you are like allowing that doubt to creep in or take a hold of your thoughts or your dominant attention, and you're starting to imagine that worst case scenario, or you're starting to be like, well, what if? That's when you really want to see and ask yourself, like, am I challenging my own trust in myself? Am I challenging the trust in the unfolding? Like, am I limiting my own perspective that, this isn't working out like in this beautiful orchestrated way? I would have not expected this curveball, but it is pushing me to trust in myself even more. Is this curveball, like, how is this curveball like bringing me to my dream?
This
You know?
is so beautiful and it's so what I need to hear right now because if I were and maybe, if I had to looking at my own energy, I would say yeah, great, Nick. You've tested your trust, like you or done the 98%, but the universe is like, hey, you don't even realize how powerful that 2% is. That's where you really get to experience the entire there's so many golden nuggets in that 2%. So how do you get someone to go like, you know, you're a celebrity mindset coach. So obviously you're working with people that have these accomplishments and I'm sure you see them in a different light where there's just another level that they can get to that they're not aware of. How do you get that next level? Yeah, I think you know
I
the
love
question.
that.
Yeah,
Okay, so first of all, like I never chose to be a mindset coach or work with celebrities or elite athletes and things like it literally, I'm trusting the process. It just unfolded. A lot of contributing factors led me to being and doing what I do today in my purpose. But the ultimate is first of all, everyone's a celebrity, and the word celebrate is to honor yourself.
ooh, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that's always my thing because I literally see everybody in the same like loving way. I'm like, would you
Oh,
open
you're
the
so
door for a
sweet.
stranger? Would you be a
Yeah,
nice person? Like that's really all that
yeah.
matters at the end of the day.
No, I love that. I love that.
So, because sometimes people like see the word celebrity and they automatically think like Hollywood or this or that. And I'm like,
Sure.
no, I'm really intentional about who I work with. And, it's really people who are doing exactly what you're asking. I always find that people find me when they're ready for that rise, like not just point A to B, Laura, like that doesn't excite me. It's like, what's point C to Z in your life and how
Interesting.
can I get you to, I call it point Z.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So it's really about like, yeah, there's a whole other level when I call it my ladder of trust. So it's like first teaching people very clearly about courage and happiness and just finding happiness in their everyday. I have a little lesson called Snack on Happy, and I teach people how to make a happy list and like chomp, chomp on joy, like eat joy throughout the day. Like the way you'd prep a meal plan or a workout plan, I first work with people so they could reach, eventually that high level. You have
Yeah.
to first go into flow. Like
Hmm.
what is flow? It's not some like celebrity elite level. It is like recognizing the blue sky, the birds chirping, the
Hmm.
delicious coffee, the great conversation. Like it is happening around you, and most people don't notice when they're happy.
The, I love everything you're saying. Something I say frequently is like one of the most advanced spiritual practices is one that might be perceived as simple, and it's gratitude, but it's that heart centered gratitude is what you're saying, like and like an authentic appreciation for the blue sky, an authentic appreciation for this conversation. And I think sometimes for anyone on the spiritual path, including myself, we can go through these routines more as tools versus a connection with self. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm grateful for the trees and the blue
Mhm.
sky, but then that going to that next level is like actually connecting with it. And do you find there's a difference in applying a tool and having that heart-centered connection?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why all my tools are ingrained in trust because again, trust
Oh,
will
I
be the
love this word you're
deepest.
using.
Because
I do. It's so
happiness
good.
Happiness and gratitude is appreciation. So when you appreciate and you're making a connection to that heart center, what lights me up might be a palm tree, but what lights up someone else might be a pine tree in a mountain, like, so it's recognition that lighting up of your heart, again, back to intuition and listening to your own voice and your own intuition is like, that's so me. Like your intuition is always telling you what's in line and not in line with what is so the essence of who you are and what lights you up. So I totally agree because sometimes gratitude and gratitude journaling, it got like sometimes a bit like overdone where people are just like
Mm-hmm.
checking it off their list
Yeah.
versus really feeling the appreciation of, because happiness often gets overlooked and it's a simple but profound concept, happiness, because we feel like it's fleeting, but the way I teach happiness, I have a very deep happiness course. It's like it gets blocked, but it's always there. Just like intuition, it gets blocked, but it's always there. And
Totally.
so when you can appreciate the blue sky, this conversation, how we were connected, like all the fun stuff of it all, then you find the appreciation like of what you don't have yet. And so as I teach manifesting, it's you can be grateful for what you have. You can be grateful for something you see in your current reality. But if you really want to manifest and manifest faster, I teach how to be grateful for things you don't have yet. And I call it gratitude and anticipation. And it's one of like, it's a very deep lesson of gratitude and anticipation for what's to come. And when you can get into gratitude as a practice and you can feel happiness, which doesn't have a huge feeling. People know when they're angry, it's a whoosh. People know when they're excited, it's an E. But usually happy like is not like, hey, I'm happy. It's just like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. Like this is
Yeah.
cool. Like this is a happy moment. And when you share happiness, it's exponential because it's love coming to you, through you, out of you, it's expressing. So, happiness and peacefulness and appreciation, when you can sink into that. So that's like my first thing on the ladder of trust that I teach people is pure happiness, because even if they're only happy, happy is flow. It's where your talent lives. So that, to answer your question, how do you get like to the whole other next level?
Yeah.
Like first really learn to, I call it snack on happy, snack
I
on
love that.
happy,
Snack on
snack on
happy.
happy throughout the day, like chomp chomp,
Yeah.
and make sure you're consciously aware of it. I have a timer on my little phone that my little Google Calendar pops up, like snack on happy relationship, snack on happy wealth, snack on happy like life. And it's cool because it's just a gentle reminder that it only takes, like I have a 2-second manifesting method. It only takes 2 seconds to repivot your focus and get back into happiness and flow.
That's so. I love this idea of manifesting where it's not necessarily about the getting; it's about the connection with self, the connection with, like you're saying, that stream of gratitude and love that resides within. And I think maybe, I mean, some people might say this old school manifestation techniques is about what you get, and what it sounds like you're saying. No, this is about connecting with the stream of love and happiness, and cherry on top, you get all the fun things as well when you connect with that love that resides within you. So, my question for you is, man, I love this idea of trust. Like that, I love it so much. And, I assume that you've gone through your fair share of obstacles to, cultivate that level of trust. So, I'd like to get sort of your backstory and how you began this journey in, becoming this mindset coach for wonderful souls all around the world. Any story that you feel called to share that gave you that extra level, that 2% that's might be bigger than the other 98% of trust, and all of that. I'd love to hear any. You could take it back as far as you want.
Sure.
Go wherever your heart is called.
Amazing. A lot, I mean, always with all of our paths, it's a lot of contributing factors. A few standout stories that I was like taught or shown intuitive trust at a very young age. My mom was diagnosed with cancer stage 4B and given 2 years to live when I was 6 years old.
Gosh.
And she's alive today. But
Wow.
I
Shout
saw
out to mom.
I saw her like not believe when something was off alignment, like not only in her own body, but when the doctors were giving her a sentence that was like a death sentence, basically. She did not, it was not true to her heart. It was
Wow.
true to her. And here I am like in kindergarten, first grade, like just observing this whole thing. And, as a young girl, I used to like go into my closet, like by the time I was third grade and starting to write, and I would write notes from my future self, which is like one of my signature tools now that I teach.
Wow. And you were doing this when?
I was doing this like as soon as I could start writing. Like I have like my little third grade notes. I have like my
Oh my
parents like
gosh.
saved it like my closet. Like they when we did construction years later, they like didn't even realize I was like writing these
That
notes.
is wild.
And
It's
it's
like
one of my tools now. So it's like,
oh my gosh.
so a lot of stuff is like right within my family stuff. But again, I saw my mom, and just, for the audience sake, it's like, when has a naysayer or a curveball shown up that like I saw my mom having to trust in her own heart and in her own ability to be like, I'm going to overcome this challenge. That's why I love your message about like it's all going to work out, because I got that message really clearly while my brain was still forming. Like it's all going to work out. I don't know how, but it is. And that message has been, as far back as I can possibly remember through challenges that I even saw my family in. My niece is Livy Dunn, and she's a famous, NCAA athlete now,
Uh-huh.
ultra famous on TikTok and social. But I became her mindset coach years ago. She was my first client, to design all these tools where I actually brought like some of the signature stuff that I had done for years intuitively. But my sister Kat, who's her mom, was just like, start talking to Aunt Laura. Like she's into all this mindset manifesting stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun that, we made a cool like TikTok together. That's how we tagged you and this whole
Yeah.
interaction even began. But same thing, like, so I saw how she was super stuck in her gymnastics, 12, 13 years old, but on track for 2020 Olympics at that time. And, instead of working with a sports psychologist that was kind of getting her more stuck in her head, honestly, at that point, like, I'm like, I know I can move people into their heart and expand again into that, like what you're talking about. What's not this level or that level, but what's like a whole other level? Like what's a path that hasn't even been made yet? And
Oh,
so
that's key.
with Livy, it was like, what's a bigger than Olympic dream? What if the Olympics is limiting to you? Like that was my posed question to her. And also, how do you create the identity that you're not just a gymnast? So you can, she really wanted to show girls and women that they were beyond just their sport. So I designed like a flip it technique. I designed my notes for my future self. I designed like all these tools originally for kids, like, cause she was 12, 13 years old at this time. And her gymnastics and talent started exploding like so quickly. I had all these parents calling me being like, we need an Aunt Laura, we need an Aunt Laura, we need an Aunt Laura.
Wow.
I became Aunt Laura, the mindset coach, overnight. I wasn't like, I didn't, like I said, sign up to be a mindset coach. Like your purpose does kind of intuitively find you when you're even just doing what you're meant to be doing. Like I was just doing it out of the goodness of my heart with my, niece. And the like fast forward, the same tools I built for her and then several other like elite kid athletes, like, I bring to the homeless people, I bring to like all different demographics. I was at the mindset coach, at a team at Google for a year being their happiness coach. Like it's so cool to
Oh,
see now
cool.
these tools, that are so easy and digestible and user friendly, work with kids, work with executive, work with elite athletes, celebrities.
That's so wonderful. It's funny. So I didn't know that you two were related, but I was just about to ask if you're related because I'm sitting here, connecting with you, and I'm like, you guys look so similar. I'm like, you guys, and then you said it right after. You're like, yeah. Oh my God, that is so wonderful.
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, it's like,
I'm I'm looking at you. I'm like, you guys are twins. I was gonna ask if you two are related, and sure enough, you are. And I think that whole story you share is so wonderful. That this connection that you had with your little niece, that you're able to just go, hey, you know, this is something that's helped me in my life, and for this little 12 and 13-year-old to absorb these high conscious tools. And I love that you connected it to Google. That now you're sharing these same tools that you can share with a 12 and 13-year-old that is, profitable in ways for the spirit and in all kinds of ways. That is just so dang wonderful. So for the listener that is wondering how Laura and I connected, I have this video. I have a couple videos where I do this, where I'm running up to the camera and I'm saying it's going to work out. And it's something that I've just always felt in my heart that it's helped me. Like it is, and my idea of it working out is it's unconditionally working out. So even when it sometimes feels like it's not, it's working out. And Laura and her niece, Livy Dunn, who is an Olympic gymnast and huge social media presence, they remade the video and tagged me. I thought it was like so sweet, so awesome. And I'm started going on your profile and I'm like, oh, this person's really, really cool. And that's how we connected. So anyway, that's a incredible story. And it's interesting to hear how you feel as if you maybe like with your mind didn't choose this. It was something always inherent within you, correct?
yes. I mean, I think that, when you find your purpose and you're passionate about what you do and whatever your creative expression is on this planet, like the essence of who you are, it just, it unravels in the most beautiful ways if you allow it to. A lot of people are, seeking to find their purpose from the intent of like, so I feel good, like what's in it for me, like, cause I want to make this impact or whatever. And sometimes that could actually be the biggest block. It's very like deep of a concept, but when a lot of purpose is found in, you've probably made, anyone listening, you've probably made all kinds of impacts on people that you didn't
Love
even
this.
realize. Like if just by being a good human, just by smiling at the person who's putting, at the grocery store, the food in the bags, and maybe they were contemplating something really terrible that day, and gave them a smile and an eye contact. And just there's so many things in your purpose that you never know. But the more you just are a good person and it feels good to you to be a good person, like you are, and then you like snack on happy and you elevate yourself into flow, like then you are ready to build into like confidence and creating boundaries around, again, what feels good to you and not good to you. And you're listening to your intuition and heart. Like it leads you to your purpose, and it leads you up to trust and trusting the process, trusting the unfolding, that the negative stepping stones are just as powerful as the positive ones if you allow them to flip, into like the counterpart they're meant to flip into. So a lot of people who are like, all right, like I am stuck in this negative. I do keep feeling doubt or lack, or not enough, or guilt or shame over a past mistake, or anger and resentment, or wherever people reside in their negative, that's taking away a lot of their attention throughout the day. Like the opposite exists. So for every, negative you, there's a positive you. For every doubting you, there's a trusting you. For every unhappy you, there's a happy you. And like, what are you practicing and normalizing throughout your day? And if you can normalize happiness, and you can normalize confidence, and you can normalize trust, you are going to inherently like step into your purpose and be very powerful.
That's so wonderful. So you would say that every person has a purpose on this planet. I mean, you just said it, but you would say everyone has a purpose on this planet?
I do. And I think your purpose is very related to your happiness. And when you're happy, you will literally find your purpose, because they're married. They're in a relationship. Happiness and purpose are so tied together, because, people will make businesses out of, I love purple. So I made the purple this. All right.
Sure.
Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's like,
Sure.
well, you
Totally.
started by just loving purple. And now it's like this purple project that like funds something that helps dogs, or I don't know. It's just like, it's ironic to see all the pieces when you're really following your happiness.
You probably just channeled someone's business idea. They're listening. They're like, "Oh my god, I want to do that. I do love purpose and I do love dogs." And they're like, "So you can thank her. It's slide in her DMs and thank her. She just channeled that business for you." Um, okay, so like one thing you also said, because there's just a ton to unpack on what you're saying. You say like a bunch of awesome things, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I gotta like capture all these little things." So one awesome thing you said is that I think we underestimate the power of something like a smile, or the inherent like value that you're providing with people don't even know. And that's something that I tend to highlight, or I like to focus on, is that all this value that resides within you that you're emanating. And I still remember this, where I was in a Starbucks drive-through line like probably 6 to 8 years ago, and someone in front of me paid for my stuff in the drive-through line. To this day, I remember like the joy I felt. I don't know why. It's just like because you didn't expect it. Felt so good. Or just sometimes you'll be in a grocery store and someone will say something nice to you, or a smile. People really underestimate just little things like a smile, their presence, their energy. So how do you get someone to see their inherent value? Not only see it, connect with it and appreciate it.
When you're happy, like when you're happy, no matter what, like, and I'm not saying that to sugarcoat it. I
Sure.
really
Right.
mean happy. Like, I
Okay.
mean, like things could be swirling around you and you're like, I'm still happy. Like it is so friggin' powerful, because you can't be like easily like just swayed, knocked down. And I'm not saying that, I'm challenge free, or that people don't get challenges that feel like they knock you down. But when you're happy and you are working on your happiness as part of your being, like as part of, I really believe it's our number one job here to be happy, to understand how to maintain happiness in the face of those challenges, because they help you see past them, and then how to exponentially share that happiness with others. Like, so you can feel like you are the person who can crack the smile, make the joke, like make the eye contact. It starts with you allowing happiness again in these tiniest moments, because you're not going to project your light. You're not going to project happiness when you're the one that's closed off, right? Like if you've got armor around your heart because you've been betrayed, or trust has been shattered, or your love's been shaken, and you don't know how to project your light out. Like, it's really hard sometimes for people when they find me initially, they're sick and tired of not being happy. They're like, I don't get it. I can't feel it. I'm down in grief, or I'm in despair, or I'm in anger. I'm like, I'm never here to diminish what people are going through, the size of their struggles or challenges, but to be that next person who actually sprinkles it out, right? You first have to allow it in. You have to allow
Hard for
yourself.
people. That's hard for people, isn't it?
It's hard for people who are feeling very blocked. So when I do my coaching, it's like the first 2 of 6 lessons is
Okay.
how to unstuck yourself,
Okay.
how to get unblocked.
I have a good friend. She's got a program called Unf Yourself. I think it's funny. You're unstuck. It's good.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, when you unstuck yourself, you are open to taking a look at what's blocking me outside of me, what's blocking me inside of me, like what's blocking me, like, oh, it's my boyfriend, it's my boss, it's, my not enough numbers in my bank account, or it's like external blocks as well as internal blocks. It's my own self-doubt, or I sabotage myself, or I'm angry all day. So once people are open to, I call it the free pass. I help people create the space to like stop trying to fix the problem. Like, you're going to get
Mm.
sucked into the energy of your own problems and create more of them. So the first unstucking is like really how to get into the energy of solution.
And how do you get someone to take that? I think it's difficult. It can be difficult sometimes for people to go, oh my gosh, it's not the blame, but to take radical responsibility. Because I find it can be easy that, to take radical responsibility for our life allows us to change these things. But what can happen is that ego slips into blame. So, how do you get someone to go, hey, you're the problem, but you're also not the problem? Like, how do you,
Right.
share that sort of, which
Yeah.
is true. It's like you are the problem, but you're also, it's not you, it's your environment and all that. How do you begin that process?
Yeah. Cause it's so frustrating. Like, when
Yeah.
you're blocked and it keeps showing up in like not enough, if you feel not enough, but not enough keeps showing up in your love life or your bank account, or like wherever not enough is showing up
Yeah. Yeah.
physically. And you're like, I never feel enough. And then I never have enough. And then I try to do more. And then I try to undo that feeling, right? That's so frustrating because you're like working hard, but you're never getting ahead. So about radical responsibility is more about like taking a look at what you're so sick and tired of. When people start working with me, it's actually a release and a relief, because it's like, let's look at that. Let's look at what you are so sick and tired of thinking, what you are so sick and tired of feeling, what you are so sick and tired of, like being stuck in this like situation that, like, they're like, I don't know, no matter what relationship, I feel no longer appreciated, or, I feel like people ghost me, or whatever it is. So it's like, once they recognize that this physical manifestation is the result of something that they're feeling, that like the feeling keeps regurgitating this manifestation over and over again. And once you get to the heart of that negative emotion, then I teach them how to flip it to the positive emotion so they can go into the flip.
Interesting. So, do you think it's beneficial? So, let's say, we identify the emotional root cause of why someone's feeling stuck. Do you think it's beneficial to feel this feeling to some
I,
release, or
yeah.
what's your process like in all
Yeah.
of that?
The process like of my flip it technique is to acknowledge the feeling is a feeling like every other feeling. It does how much like time and energy are you giving it? Are you giving it an inappropriate amount of attention? Like, because a lot of times, yes, people like say feeling is healing and let it roll through you. And I agree, like allow yourself to see and, feel where the feeling is in your body and all those things. However, if you're coming to me, you probably know this feeling really, really well, and you're ready to be
Right.
done with it. You're ready.
Right.
I've
Sure.
felt
Yeah.
it like for like 20 years, Laura, right? So I'm
Right.
like, all right, you know this feeling is what you're stuck in. So what I help people do is like, well, what's the opposite of that? So if you are sick and tired of feeling not enough and feeling this lack and feeling like this doubt around yourself and all the things that it comes with, then what is the opposite of that feeling? Because you're never gonna get to abundance and more than enough by trying to fix lack or fix like I don't ever feel enough, I don't ever have enough time, money, love, this, that, right? Like you're never gonna fix it when you're still stirring the pot of that energy. So the first technique, in getting unstuck, once they're consciously aware of like, okay, I have all these things, this is where it's showing up, this is the feeling that's part of it, is then the next set of techniques where all the blueprints come, as I work with people then on what their next chapter is the flip of that energy, which is, you're clearly done with doubting yourself. You really want to boost trust. So let's work on the blueprint of boosting trust. And what does that look like? And where does that translate into your bank account and your love and your this and your that? So the work is done in the positive versus a lot of people keep fighting against the old.
Interesting. Yeah, I always think of, fighting against resistance is, if we were to look at that like in a physical sense, it's like yelling at a person and that person yelling back. And then the sunshine's over there. It's, you can shift your focus over here to the sunshine. But if you're trying to yell at someone to try and I compare that to our own thoughts, right? It's almost like you're battling that inner child that is expressing themselves in the only way they know how. And then so many of us, we resist, we resist, we resist, and it just we attract, we're a vibrational match for. We attract more of that resistance, and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. So when you are working with someone that maybe is new to this world or someone that's maybe more experienced in this world, do you find that there's still similar blocks that happen between, a different kind of client where maybe someone comes in and they're like, Laura, trust me, I have been trusting, and you got intuition that's like a tattletale. You're like, oh, you're cute. No, you're not. Like, what does that look like, and does that happen?
It does happen, and it's kind of fun because I do like private group coaching experiences where I've, hundreds of people at a time, and they're always at all, people are at all different levels on their
Sure,
own paths.
sure.
And, there's really no measurement when it comes to like who's ahead or behind. It's just, are you consciously aware of what you don't want? Are you consciously aware of what you do want? However, again, most humans are very aware of what they do not want. So I always start at that as a starting point. And to answer that, like if they know they don't want to feel down in guilt and shame and self-rejection, and they're at the first level of that level of awareness, versus someone who's been stewing in that energy for years, being like, I always go back to guilt and shame and rejecting myself. It's interesting because it's an energy and it's just an emotion. I have a house of manifesting blueprint that I teach people. It's called the House of Manifesting, and it's one of my tools where I show people like what floor are you on? It's like a six, like it's a 6 level house. So they know in
Love
the
it.
basement levels, they're going to guilt and shame, the lowest level. If they're up on the doubt, if they're in the doubt floor, they're spewing and lack and like, oh, I need evidence to know where I'm going next, or I'm doubting myself. I'm doubting, if they're in anger, they know they're sick and tired of it. And then I have like the opposite floors where I love to teach from, which is happiness and confidence and trust. And I teach people, based on the emotions, how to make it logical, how to align your thoughts, your actions, what you're imagining to each floor. Because what's really interesting when people start working with me at all levels is like they can really be like, I know I'm on the anger floor. Like I'm just always at walking.
Yeah, they know where they are. Yeah, right. I've been living
I know
here for
I'm
a
on the doubt
while.
floor.
Yeah, I've been decorating this floor. We got rooms here. I know all about this floor. Yeah, I've been living here
Yeah,
for a
and
while.
it's cool. I make it very visual. Like I have their self-talk become the wallpaper. Like it's a very like working with me is a very like I'm a visual learner, so I make it very like all my tools, all my visualizations are very like, people build their own house of manifestings with me, and they're clear on what their guilt floor looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get that because it's like it's almost like an aspect of the subconscious likes to be there because you've moved in there. You got all your stuff there. you've been there for a little while. Yes, we get sick of it, but yeah, I feel like, yeah, we know we're there. I feel guilty of this thing that happened in childhood. I feel angered at this thing, and then it continues to manifest in these new ways throughout our life that can be frustrating. And you're like, an angel that's like, hey, we can break through this. We can break through this together.
It's amazing because it's like I have an elevator on the sides of the like house of manifesting, and I'm like, you just leave, just like you're changing the radio dial, like you don't change the guilty version of you. The guilty version of you is always going to live on the guilt, floor. When I train people to like get the elevator ride up to the trust floor, trust you were meant to experience that moment. So of guilt, shame, self-rejection, so you can be on the trust floor, which it's literally like a abundance floor where like everything,
Mm,
so once people again go to the happiness floors and confidence floors and trust, and I really teach people how their thoughts, how their emotions, how their actions, how their results in their life are lined up to those, but that they could take the elevator ride up at any time, and then how to, like, it is a happy tears on the other side. Like it is, the
mm,
tools are so relieving because there's a lot of times that people have spent years in therapy or other things that like has been trying to fix the problem.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
sometimes you just have to create the space and leave the problem, because if you really believe in trust and trusting in the unfolding, what if you're not meant to see that fix for
yeah.
another 6 months or 6 years where
Right.
we've all had those moments where you're like, oh, that's why that all happened.
Yeah, yeah. You look back. It could be
Right?
2 years, 3 or 4 years. You look back and you're like,
Look back.
oh, got it.
So if you just learn to go to the trust floor now versus like, but I need to know, like, when you're intuitive, like you
Yeah,
want to know the lesson,
yeah. Right.
there's like a need to know, but that
Yeah,
need to know is bringing you right back to the doubt floor, because it's like, well,
yeah.
if you're not, if the evidence is not in front of you, can you
Mhm,
trust it will be?
mhm. That is so powerful. It really is, because I think so many of us, even when we're on this journey, we experience these new levels, I would say like up leveling, and these new levels of trust that are required for us to go to where our higher self, soul, whatever words people use, desire to go. And we can fall back into those old patterns. I need the evidence to validate me. I need external happiness things, quote unquote, right? Happiness things to feel happy. And the universe goes, did you forget how powerful those fundamentals were of gratitude and trust? And this has been a huge episode for me, because this I think that's the one message I need right now. And I think a lot of the listeners can relate to that, is trust. And I remember asking, a mentor of mine, if you had to simplify spirituality, how would you do that? And I'm probably going to butcher it the way they said it, but essentially they painted this picture. It was like just jumping off that metaphysical cliff's edge. It's jumping. It's jumping. You had to
It's,
simplify it. It's jumping, and it's knowing it's. Would you say it's kind of an acceptance of worst case scenario, because it's ultimately happening for you, like, or do you not even acknowledge the potential worst case scenario? So like, how do you dissolve the fear? You're plummeting, like you jump off the cliff's edge, that represents trust, right? And you're plummeting. Sometimes you don't get caught right before you hit, and I say your spirit wings, they catch you. How do you dissolve that fear within a student or a client of yours, or even within your own journey that you're on?
well, you got to learn, if you can flex trust in the smaller things, you'll
Okay.
be much more likely to take leaps. It's kind of like building confidence.
Love
Uh,
this. Yeah, yeah, totally.
that like you can build confidence. Sometimes people need the applause from others to feel the confidence in themselves
Yeah.
versus the lighting up and I can do this feeling and feeling the confidence. And the same thing goes with trust. I have this lesson, I call it the trust bucket.
I
And
love that. Oh my gosh, let's look. Oh my gosh,
and
this
I
is so good.
literally have a trust bucket, and
I
I
love that.
people at all times, you have a doubt bucket and a trust bucket, and which one are you filling? Are you filling, putting the rocks and sand in, you can only be going in one direction or another. You're either doubting or you're trusting. And when you're allowing the fear to seep in that moment, it's usually because it's very meaningful to you in your heart. So there's like an acknowledgement of the fear in a different way to answer that question, like where you're feeling like you're on your way down, you're getting scraped up now by the rocks, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh. Like, did I make the right move? And
Yeah.
now I'm doubting, and am I gonna be okay? Right? Like, it's really good to mentally rehearse seeing yourself, especially if you're at a crossroads or whatever, that you're okay at the end of either path, even the jagged one that like bumped along the way. But ultimately, you really want to, when I am saying like all my lessons have trust underneath it all, is because when at the end of the, like when I do an initial 6 weeks with people, the last lesson's the trust bucket. And I show people how each lesson, even happiness, the note from their future self, congratulating themselves, for removing the resistance, all these things that I teach them, were all flexes of trust. And so when you can flex it, it's kind of like learning to do the push-ups, and then suddenly you're like, I can do the push-ups, right? It's just like when
Yeah. Yeah.
it's flexing it in the littlest thing, so you can start to feel like you can take the leaps. And once I show people like this was all trust, then they, you'll feel the bump differently. The bump is like, how is this still like providing my, best, softest landing? And you'll start to just continuously boost, again, trust inside yourself. When you're not finding it in the external, it's likely because you're not feeling it in the internal.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's like something that I teach my students when I'm teaching them intuition is you don't go to the gym and lift 1,000 pounds. You will
Right.
strain the physical body, and it creates ask in it, and I equate that to asking source, higher self, universe, whatever it is someone believes in, these questions that people desire to know and access them through intuition. You don't want to ask these giant questions because it'll create that emotional bias that will completely, I don't say it'll distract you from that connection with the trust that is required for you to pull accurate, high conscious, intuitive information. And so what you're saying is, can I see the what you're drawing again,
Yeah.
and
I
what's
mean,
in the drawing? Can you
so
read some of that
inside
in there?
here are all some of like my little mini lessons, like learning how to
Yeah.
do my flip it method or the snack
Oh,
on happy. Because again, where there's happiness, you're closer to trust than you actually know you are, because you're in
yeah.
flow again. So once you're in flow and you're happy, you're likely going to, be in a flow. You're going to have the conversations you're meant to be having that are connecting you to the next self, or higher self. So these are all different lessons: how to nip and zip the negative no momentum, how to create the day in the life of the future you. That's like in that point C to Z I talked about earlier. That's like there's a version of you that's past all your manifestations. Like, who's that version of you? That's the
Wow.
identity that I helped Livy develop. And it's like, who are you past the Olympics? Who are you past, like we would have never thought that NCAA athletes could make money in college. She was building this audience on social media for after college.
Mm.
Like, she was
Wow.
building like
Wow.
like what in her head was a multi-billion dollar brand of Livy Dunn, regardless of the rules changing. They just happened to
Sure.
work out in her favor, but she was working this as a business to do after college, because gymnastics doesn't have a pro, like they don't go pro like a cop, like other basketball or football players. So she was being really smart, anyway, like trusting that she had a bigger purpose
Yeah.
plan. And so all of these are like, some of them are very big tools that I create on
Okay.
trust and,
Yeah.
how it aligns to your identity and purpose. And some of them are tiny little things like that are big, like my nip it zip it tool on how to nip and zip the negative momentum in order to flip it to the positive. So these are just little like.
I love that, the trust bucket. It's kind of like you have like a little piggy bank almost, and
Exactly. And the daily life, like, I teach people like the big wins, of your day, like you did a flip it, of
I
like a little
love
rock, like you
that.
can put them in the rocks and stuff, and it makes it heavier. So when your brain has an input from your current reality, it's like it's only going to go to one bucket and put a rock in. It's going to go to doubt,
Sure.
it's going to go to trust. And this lesson hits home in the deepest ways for people, because by the time they've gotten to this lesson, they've already learned how to like realign their thoughts and emotions and actions and imagination. They've already learned how to nip and zip the negative. They've already learned how to snack on happy. Like, they've already learned like the congrats card they've already learned all my other signature tools.
Yeah.
And then trust like weaves it all together, and it just comes out of your heart, and just trust that you're exactly where you're meant to be in this moment, Nikki.
It's
Like, exactly what
yeah,
you're meant to do.
it's funny. I mean, like, yeah, connecting truly, you're gonna what I've experienced in connecting with new levels of trust, and obviously I'm getting a session right now, which is great. So I'm gonna be applying all this stuff, but you are in the unknown for a second, and you kind of have to go, okay, it's a connection with the source, the love, the trust that resides within you, and you'll be surprised. And I think it's pretty interesting with your niece and what she does in the world. I mean, physically being a gymnast, you got to trust the shit out of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is like such a I don't know, I think that's it's a pretty cool um like a physical representation of what you teach. What has that been like to see, someone and a family member, which is also pretty cool, been able to apply these tools and watch the unfolding of them happen for all of you, for yourself and the rest of your family?
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I think with like levels of fame come all kinds of things, because
Right.
there's naysayers, there's people
Sure.
like that will never believe, someone deserves it. Is she worthy? And I'm like, she is one of the smartest business people like on the planet
So
that I
cool.
know. And she's smart, and it's interesting because she's not just smart in like what she intuitively like knows, in terms of her presentation to herself and her audience and how she wants to represent herself, all the deals she says no to every single week that's not in line, with her goals and her vision. But it's really cool because the physical manifestation of being number one NCAA female paid athlete, right? Like, so there's a physical
That's
manifestation
pretty cool. That's got to be cool for you
of
and your
like
family. Yeah.
like
That's
from
yeah.
the business level, from a monetary level, from seeing like a 21 year old like being able to like capture that, but then also like see like schoolwork and gymnastics and running a business, like that's no joke, like it takes a lot of work. But it just shows like to me that like one of my favorite manifesting words is and. Like a lot of people think like you can't have that and that you can't like work from home and make a lot of money and be home with your kids, or you can't be a student athlete and run a business, or you can't whatever your limited perspectives are, and I love like working with Livy and all kinds of athletes. I mean, I just got another girl who just sent me like World Cup. I don't know what's on my Instagram today that she
Yeah.
won like for whatever. And it's like so cool to see the physical manifestation, whether it's, the athletic part of what people are doing in their body and their goals, to the business part, to, but it's like ultimately at the end of the day, like who do you want to be? Like, how does that make you happy?
Yeah.
I at the end of the day, like I love the most recent commercial she did for Fiore because they really captured it. Like at the end of the day, Livy wants to hang out with family, like be at the beach, like hang out with her dog. Like, it's just like even though I'm a celebrity mindset coach and I've worked with a lot of like elite level people in sports or, whatever, it's at the end of the day, we are more similar than, what we kind of sometimes account.
Totally. Totally. With well, everything you just said, like right in the beginning, right? With what comes with, this success that a lot of people see on the outside, the universe always has to be in balance. And you're going to receive an equal level of resistance, negativity, and new obstacles and challenges that are required for you to overcome in order to maintain a certain level of success or to stay in alignment with your soul's path. Because I'm sure you attract these clients that might on the outside have everything going, and then they come to you, they're like, my life's falling apart. And you're like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
yeah.
we got this. Okay. And everyone on the outside probably thinks their life is perfect. And so that, for you to bring it full circles, what you just said is that we're way more similar than most people realize. And we all have kind of, they're manifested in unique ways, but these similar blocks, similar emotional wounds that are required for us to overcome if we desire to align with our soul's path. And like you're saying with Livy, to design a life that was bigger than the one that she even thought was possible. And that's something that I kind of wanted to highlight and for you to elaborate on with clients and things of that nature. It's this idea of so you have a dream, great, dream bigger. How do you get people to step into
Exactly.
that fear, to dream bigger than they thought was possible?
And bigger doesn't have to mean more. Big,
Okay, that's good.
right? bigger can mean like more happy, like more content, more peace. Cause sometimes like, I have celebrities that already have the money or the fame or like the thing. Sometimes people
Sure.
think it's like the go bigger. I need to be more famous or have more money or have more stuff. And, sometimes I'm working with the people who have all that are just like, I need more peace. I need more self-worth.
Sure.
That's when I realized at the end of the day, about, we think it's sometimes the physical manifestations, but what most people are struggling with, or even sometimes celebrities are struggling with the same feelings,
Yeah.
self-worth, self-doubt, this or that,
Yeah.
but sometimes even in the public eye.
Yeah.
When I was on Selling Sunset on Netflix, like it was really obvious, like when things are in a reality show and people are like showing things that like, I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I'm the opposite of like that reality show. I'm like coming in to, kind of be like, Laura, the mindset coach, let me show you the opposite exists to all this chaos. But sometimes it's like chaos, but
Yeah.
relate to feeling powerless and weak. And I really do think people sometimes are so caught in their limited perspective that the think bigger, dream bigger, and let's make it happen can mean many different things to many different
I love
people.
that.
Definitely, like, definitely stop thinking I'm playing too small because
Yeah.
playing too small, whatever that means to you, will limit the path. You're going to be met with only what you're like, where your mindset is going. So if you can expand into greater happiness and confidence and trust, you're going to be met with very different opportunities.
It's so cool when you begin to trust. And it is because there's just these unexpected events and experiences and aspects of the life path that reveal themselves through that trust. Right. And so I'm sure like you have this firsthand experience. And I think I know the answer to this, but could you and your family have ever expected all of these blessings that have happened throughout your life? Like, was this something that you could have guessed, this path that you're currently on? I'm going to guess the answer is probably no, but go ahead.
I mean, it's interesting because I think if you kind of can feel the outcome of what you
Okay.
desire, then how it unfolds does happen naturally, right? Like I
Okay. Yeah.
definitely knew at a young age that I wanted to teach people about happiness. I thought at 5 years old or 7 years old, I was going to open ice cream shops and I was going to make the world happy because I equated happiness to ice cream, and I
Yeah.
still do, right? But so
Yeah.
for me, it's like there's a part of me that says yes, because I knew I was meant to teach people somehow some about happiness. I didn't know how, but in the face of, again, seeing my mom struggle or being in naysayers, like I knew I was like the third daughter, like I was always putting smiles on my family's faces. Like I knew I was like a light, bright, like lightening up of, whatever challenge was going on. I kind of could see that, I mean, I didn't know then that like, but I could feel as I got older that is what I'm meant to be on this planet in this time, like a
Interesting.
source to help people lighten up on themselves, feel better about themselves, trust and get happy, be more confident, be more strong, empower themselves. And that's why I like love, I know I'm here for the underdogs too. Like, so there, that part is like something that's very clear to me. So I would say yes. And for Livy, same idea. It was like I'm like, why do you want to go to the Olympics? And she wanted to be famous and she wanted to build a brand. Like she had a Livy brand idea, and back then she was making leotards and you couldn't make money as an athlete, and leotard companies would copy her designs and she would hand create, like she's very creative. She would hand create her designs. And, and when the like leotard companies would be making it and selling it, instead of getting disgruntled, I was like that's the entrepreneur in you. Like you're gonna do something with that someday. And like, so it's like I don't know. I do feel like if you have a grander purpose of impact, hold tight to that vision.
Mm.
Hold tight, because I do feel like there's a lot, I'm sure, of your listeners that feel that pull.
Yes, that internal, they know there's something bigger and greater for them and that they have to offer the world. Maybe
Mhm.
sometimes the how is the surprise, or how it's revealed maybe is the surprise,
The
or
how is always the surprise.
that's, yeah, that's, I guess, yeah, the how is maybe the surprise.
Detach from
Yes,
the
that's
how.
Oh God, it's hard for
Detach from
people.
the how, because that's where trust, if you're not detaching from how it happens, like I would never have become like where I am at today if I completely didn't detach from how I would, be sharing happiness and joy and confidence and trust like with the world and the way I get to do it. And, I am always detaching from the path. Like
Hmm.
I'm always so I the short answer to your big question is like, did we expect it or feel it? Yeah, I don't know how clear it was, but we did have a big vision. Like,
Okay, there was that internal compass going. There's something there, and then
yes.
you trust. You do what you love. You share what you were doing since you were 7 years old with the world, which I think is an important part of your message. Is 7 year was it 7 years old or was it younger?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, around
Yeah,
that 6, 7, 8 years
yeah.
old, I was just like happy.
Yeah, you're happy. You're connected with your inherent high level loves and your inherent high level skill sets. And when you connect with that, you offer that to the world. You connect with that intuitive knowing that there is that thing that's bigger. And then the how is that surprise that it's really fun. I kind of see it as the universe giving you these gifts. There's nothing more fun than opening up a gift on Christmas. And there's so many of those things that can manifest in your life in different ways. And it's that trust that, gosh, it can be so difficult for people, right?
I mean, if you really look at trust as the highest manifestation of love, though, of self love,
I
and you're
love that.
working up the ladder from happiness and just feeling general joy and content, peace, and flow. And then knowing then you're on your way up to trust. Because again, like if you are just happy, you're good. Because if you are just happy, you're going to be in line with what's meant to be coming your way.
Mm.
So just happy is already like a big relief for a lot of people who are not happy. That their
Yeah.
happiness is being blocked by anger and resentment and doubt and shame and guilt and all the negatives, jealousy and whatever all the pangs are that block happiness. So if you're working on your happiness, the next level up is all the confidence lessons of like, well, now, well, how am I happy when this is happening? How do I happy when this person's behavior is this? And so confidence is the next level that I teach people. And how do you create boundaries around your happiness and what makes you happy and what doesn't? So you can speak your truth and you can not draw lines around other people, but you draw lines around yourself and what you're willing to tolerate.
I love this because it's also connecting a dot for me where I think something that had held me back, earlier in my, creating journey is, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is this fear of failure. But with what you're saying is when you connect with that unconditional happiness that resides within you, you fail, you're like, oh, it's all good. Let me just go again. Oh, fail again. Let me just go boom, 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 boom. And you're not stunted. Like I feel, at least in my life, quite a bit of growth can be stunted because of the fear of failure. Like when I began posting on social media, first video I made, I don't like the lighting. And then I do it again. I still don't, I'm on my 10th time and I never given myself permission to fail. It wasn't until I allowed myself to fail and I'm applying everything that you're sharing with the audience and myself, where it's like, don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry. Have fun. Connect with why you love to do this. Enjoy the failure. That's the unconditional happiness. All of a sudden, oh, there's some good lighting. Okay, oh, now I'm articulating myself in a way that I desire to because you have in your head these ideas of who you are, and then you begin to go for it, and it maybe doesn't happen instantly. But what,
Mhm.
what you're saying is like those two connect with me. It's like when you connect with happiness, you go after your dreams because you're not as disappointed. You're seeing it as like now when I fail, I'm like, perfect. I'm closer to my goals. Perfect redirection, or I need to strengthen this skill set or connect with more happiness, more trust. I'm elevating in my spiritual connection, this, that, and the other. So I think those two are really beautiful. Go ahead.
No, I think that and how are you measuring yourself up? Like what is really a failure? Is it not enough likes? Is it not enough this? Is it not enough that? Or could you find the success in I made the video, I said the
Love that.
words, so it's about finding the success sometimes in the failure too. Because you want to flex your success muscle, you want to flex how you are measuring yourself. There's so many different ways to measure success. So, not only can failure lead to more trust and more clarity and more courage and more things, but when I'm working with even an actor or just someone who's even been experiencing a lot of negativity, it's like, you got to also do it for you. Like you got to do it because you're enjoying doing it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not really going to be spreading the creative essence of who you are and what you're meant
Yeah.
to be doing. So that put you on the path. Yours, I look at my like years ago videos that are like 7,000 videos ago, and I can like they're funny. I can like laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow. But I had the courage to start, and I would be paralyzed like when someone made fun of me, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'd be stuck for a few days, but that was now, 30, 40,000 hours ago of video. Like I've
Yeah.
made so much content since, and you realize that like, well, am I doing it for the external applause, or am I actually also doing it for
So
some internal
true.
applause? And that internal applause is like, well, it brought me some really internal satisfaction and self-worth, that I'm bringing this message forward, whether one person saw it or whether 1 million people saw it.
That's wonderful. That can be like a little brand right there. Internal applause. I love it. Like on a little t-shirt, some merch. We all
Yeah.
need to be giving ourselves the internal applause because that ego is sneaky. It will secretly be desiring that external applause, secretly looking. And then what happens, what I've realized with clients and students is that if, that come to me and having some accomplishments is you're burnt out because you're not doing it from this place of love, joy, excitement from your soul, things of that nature. So,
Yeah, one of
Laura,
my
go
biggest
ahead.
lessons is, I'm sorry, motivation to inspiration, how to go from that external motivation where you're doing it because you think you need it from the external, which is often where things start because you're really frustrated or, like you're like, I don't like my body. I want to go on the diet. A lot of times those a lot of sometimes our motivations are an external, like I hate this job, or I don't like this relationship, or I don't like that I'm being treated like this. So sometimes that motivation starts externally, but there is a flip where it's got to go internal into inspiration. And once it does, yeah, that quiet confidence, I call it, is like the gentle smile, the head nod from your future self, congratulating yourself of what you stepped away from, what you stepped into. Those are all huge practices that I teach people to do on the daily.
It's a new level of love, right? Is like going from the I'm doing this because I need external validation to the internal applause. How do you help people still maintain that level of motivation? Because in some ways, people can be motivated by the external applause or validation. And once you're more connected with that humble self or not doing it for any other reason than to help the world or whatever it may be, how do you still connect with that motivation? Is it just because you love to do it? What does that look like?
Yeah, it is a love of doing what you do, because some people are meant to be up on the stage, and some people love like being behind the scenes, and some people love being boisterous and loud, and some people love being more introverted, but also are extremely powerful in, stirring the pot of positive energy behind the scenes. So I think it's in knowing what you love and being happy in what you do, and having what you do be an extension of who you are. So it's a big piece of purpose that I love to teach, is like what you do, you know, an extension of who you are at the essence of you. And only you will know that because it lights up your intuition. It lights up what makes you happy. It lights you up. You wake up happy, you go to bed happy. I call it like a happy sandwich. I have all these, snack on happy, happy sandwich. Because if you like wake up deciding like this is how the most perfect day in my life would be, like this is how I want to wake up and feel, this is what I want to see, this is the kind of life I want to lead, this is the kind of work schedule I want to have, this is the kind of relationship. When you get really clear in all your areas of your life, from relationships, love, family dynamics, your sense of self, your purpose, your career, your money, your financial situation, your impact, you start to recognize like what lights you up, might be like something completely different than your neighbor. But that's what's most beautiful about it all, is that like what, someone might want to start a nonprofit and, do it all quietly. And someone might, want to step on stage, and be all loud, but, who's to measure the impact, of how it
So
putting
true.
tables and how it's lighting up humanity.
So true. We have this like kind of illusion, and like we put certain things on a pedestal, we put certain things here, but through more of an objective lens, like who's to say what's more meaningful, what's this, that, and the other. I have some oh man, I had like so many questions, and I'm like listening to them, I'm like, oh man, okay. I actually had some like rapid fire questions I wanted to
Oh,
ask
I
you. Is
love
that
it.
okay?
Let's
Okay.
go.
Let me
Wait,
see if I
yeah,
could let me see if I could find them. How are you doing on time, by the
I'm
way?
good. Let me just message my person that because I love this and I want to continue. So let me just
Okay, okay,
and
perfect.
you get your questions and I'll
Okay, cool, perfect. Let's see. And if you're listening, we're still here. We're just kind of
we're like,
we're
hold
having an
on,
intermission.
don't go anywhere.
I know we're having a
It's
little
actually is
intermission.
about to turn up and get really juicy. So
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Let's see.
okay, I'm ready when you are.
Well, it's funny. I had it, and now I'm like totally lost it here. Let's see. I did. I think I had some. Man, I totally had it. Okay.
I love
Let's
on
see.
TikTok. I'm just like, I love that. I'm like, rapid fire me, guys. Like, just
Oh, you like the rapid fire? Okay,
like
good.
like, what's your burning manifesting questions? Like, what is
Yeah.
like
So
keeping dog or
I'm gonna ask a couple while I look for my list here
okay.
because I have
Maybe
a couple.
while I talk, you'll find it.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the questions I had is if you were interviewing yourself, what would be a question that you would desire to ask you for the audience and anyone listening for an answer that you could give them that would be, exciting for you to share?
Okay. I would
Yeah.
ask like, what would be like one of the like simplest but most significant things that you can do on the daily to change your life?
I love this. Okay. And what's our answer?
Snack on happy. I think
Snack on happy.
snack on happy, like your life depends on it. I think it's the simplest, most overlooked thing that people can, even when you're stuck in traffic, like look at the blue sky, snack on happy, 2 seconds. If you're stuck in a big work meeting and you see people arguing back and forth, like look at the leather chair and like I love the leather chair, like
Yes.
intentional
Yes.
happiness is a simple, subtle, significant shift that you can do throughout your day to bring you back to like the power of now.
Okay, I love that. And then what is and we'll get into rapid fire. I'm gonna have to find these notes. But another question I have before that is what would you say is like your ultimate dream, right? If you're looking at the highest expression of Laura, right? And you're looking at Laura's life and all that she's created, what is the ultimate dream of yours?
So I go to my 104-year-old self, like it's when
I love how specific. 104, perfect.
It's like 100 and I teach this tool of the congratulations card from your future self, and I've like kind of crafted one throughout the decades of my life. I'm 48 now, so it was like, okay, at 104, what will I be like? And I see myself in this like I'm like Italian, so I'm like this like making the sauce and meatballs and like eggplant
Yeah,
parmigiana, and I see this huge table of my family, which is like such a key aspect of my life. I have 3 sons and, I just see like great grandkids and stuff, but the impact, like they're toasting me, my 3 boys are giving me a toast and it's my 104th birthday.
love that.
And I feel the impact I've made on, like through my, like, I don't have them yet, but my like House of Manifesting books, workbooks, I have my
Love
courses,
that.
like I'm doing mindset art now. Like, so I've launched, like I'm launching into art and then I'm going to illustrate my books and workbooks and, just the impact of my courses and programs on couples, on businesses, and ultimately on kids and teenagers, because like although a lot of people who find me now are adults, like who are just on their spiritual path or just feeling really stuck and want to get unstuck, I've helped so many kids and teenagers. And if I could go back to my like 14 to 19-year-old self, that kind of like where I shut my own light off and like kind of lost myself a little bit, I think that's such a impactful time. And just having had the work with Livy and like, a lot of like elite, I train kids all the way to Australia, that are very high end, like
That's
elite
incredible.
athletes, on national teams and stuff. So it's like, that impact that I know I can make also on a kid's life and a teen life. I ran education companies for kids. So my ultimate is to bring what I'm currently doing in the adult market to back to kids and teenagers to scale. And then, just to have this positive that manifesting like levels the playing field for anyone. So it's just a happier planet. I really see that, like, although our planet's going through a lot of shakeups right now, I really feel the shift to the positive, and I want to have that dent. You know, I feel
Oh
like I'm
my
making.
gosh. Yeah, you are making it. I mean, like, it's so wonderful with someone like you that, has attracted quite a bit of awesome things in your life. And for you to get excited about your 104-year-old self, where one time someone may have not, like we've been taught for so long to not look forward to that, but to see the 104-year-old version of you, and it's the highest expression of you, the healthiest version of you, the most excited version of you. What are your kids? Like, are they connected with what you do in the world? Do they give you accolades? Or they're just like, oh, it's whatever, mom? Are they kind of, what's their connection with what you're doing in the world like?
It's so fun because, they're applying it to their life. I've my
Okay.
9-year old and 17-year-old are golfers, and even just like watching like golf documentaries and stuff on Netflix and
Very
the other
cool.
mindset coaches and stuff. They're like, Ma, that's like what you do. So, and
Yeah.
they've seen the success even in their own cousin and cousins. I've coached a lot of the family.
Okay. So
Uh,
you do like all your kids, nieces, nephews, you're kind of,
as they lean in, and then I
okay.
lean into my sister and I do this together. So like my sister Kat, who's Livy's mom, and I like
Okay.
design all the mindset content. I'm just the one that brings it to the world. So like we'll create the happiness content. She'll write all the scripts, like we'll work on it behind the scenes, and then I bring it to the world. So it's like a fun collaboration between my family. My family
That's so
grew
fun.
an education technology company for kids before I became a mindset coach. And then, my husband and I launched gyms in Denver. Like we've done so many different things to just like help education, help kids, fitness, like in different family businesses together. So, my kids, it's part of who we are. My husband's a fitness coach. I'm a mindset coach. Like they're around coaching a
Oh,
lot.
you guys got it going on. Yeah, got
But
it.
that sometimes they're like, Ma, like they don't want to be coached sometimes. Sometimes like if they're in a struggle, like you don't want to hear like, well, like I think you should, sometimes you just want to be
Yeah.
mom. And I
Yeah.
know when to put on now. Like I think it's also important that like kids also learn at some point, fall down, how to dust off, get back up, like on your own. So holding the space, again, that's trust, holding the space for people to rise and be like, I know you're going to figure that out. Like, even though I know I can tell them a tool in that moment is sometimes more beneficial than me dishing out a tool in that moment, which might, you know, feel like scrutiny from, a mom, or it might feel like I'm trying to fix them versus hold the space for them. So it's a unique balance. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's intuition, right? Your intuition's going, there's more value in the life experience and their overcoming. And I've kind of had to find that balance with my own family, who's I'm so grateful because they're so open to everything I do. But sometimes then you want to change, so not change, but at least in my own experience, I'm like, I want to give them the answer. And it's like, universe is like, dude, they don't need the answer from you. They're
Right.
doing fine. Let them, if they want, they'll come to you. So now I've learned kind of like play hard to get. When I play hard to get, they're like, wait a minute, tell me. I'm like, no, you won't care. They're like, yeah, I do. So I just like, I've kind of
Yeah.
used the laws of the universe to do these little experiments. And play hard to get, they start coming to me. And versus
I
me
love it.
trying to change, because I did that in the beginning. I want to tell a family member,
Totally.
right?
I mean, I call it the happiness police. Like once you know,
Yeah,
once you know how to become happy and you see
yeah,
someone who's not,
yeah,
like you could easily police, like, well, it's like someone going on a new diet and like then you still see the person that's eating the thing that's like, you really should be,
yeah,
set.
yeah,
And it's like, well, I'm enjoying this right now, and it's could be misconstrued even if your intent is positive. So
yeah.
that's why I'm really clear now, yeah, to like not go around, like it's not my job to fix anyone. No one's broken.
Yes, that's
And
huge.
it's not my job. If people are meant to find me, I completely trust that like my messages will hit, the audience that's exactly meant to hear me, exactly when they're meant to, at the right timing. So, and if I don't help them, that someone else will. There's several different people giving all kinds of messages of, you know, it's just, I do it in my Laura way, like my Laura
Yeah.
St. John techniques are, unique because they were like very developed over the years, again, very organically. But if it doesn't resonate with people, I'm like, it doesn't resonate. You don't have to force it.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I had to learn that. Like, it's not my job to try and change anyone because it's like implying that they're broken or they need to be fixed. Versus what you're saying, it's an empowerment. If someone comes to you, they desire to change their life, then we can offer them, hey, these are things that have helped me, this, that, and the other. I've been frantically trying to find my rapid fire. I don't totally know where they went, and I'm like, but you know what? It's not meant to be because we've gotten these better questions at the end anyway. So the last question I think I'll ask, and then I want you to share and all of Laura's information is going to be in the show notes. Before I ask the last question, where can people find you? I know through social media, and what are your different offerings if people are interested?
Sure. I have a lot of variety. I have a 7-day free manifesting like challenge
Ooh,
that's
get on that.
because that's so easy. I designed that right after I was on Netflix, and I was like in an up spiral myself. Like, I was in an upward shift in my own career. And I knew that's when I wanted to film that course because I could feel the energy behind my words. So that's a no brainer. I'm like always like start with the content that's like just the easiest entry, because then whether my content and tools are for something it suits you, if it's a match
I
magnetically.
love that. Okay,
And
that's going to be in the show notes for everyone
yeah,
listening, by the
that's
way.
an
Go
easy
do that.
no-brainer. Start there. Obviously, follow Laura St. John across like TikTok and Instagram. And my main website, Strong Confident Living.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, that's been my website for years, and that also houses my private group coaching experience. So once people have done a 7-day, or if they already know, like I want to be coached by Laura, I want to hop in on Zooms, I want to do a lesson a week, I want to be on live Q&As. That's my private group coaching experience, and that's a 6-week private group coaching that people can just sign up for. They get like tons of content that's inside the like content library that I've built over years on money, career, purpose, love, happiness, health, relationships, like everything, every category of all the things we discussed. But the signature tools, of how to trust and how to be happy and how to get unstuck and how to create a bigger than, vivid, clear dream, all the things.
We're
So
kind
that's
of yeah, no, that's beautiful, Laura. I mean, we're kind of in a place in the world where a lot of ways I feel like this stuff is essential. And like you said, that 7-day manifestation, that free workshop is a no-brainer. I couldn't encourage you guys enough. That's just like go check it out. I'm gonna put all this stuff in the show notes, and I want you guys to do me this favor. I actually want you guys to go bug Laura in her DMs and be like, I heard the podcast, and you know, yeah, go bug her, and then she can be like, "Hey, dude, a lot of people are bugging me," and we'll be like, "Great."
Bugging is a great thing. It just means you're really clear and ready that like you were meant to hear a lot of these messages in this broadcast, about getting unstuck or
Yes,
past your struggles or manifesting a new reality, and whatever level you're at. So the 6 week is a great like next step. And then I've done retreats. I've had retreats out here in Malibu. I just did one in Europe. Like I've done, a bunch of in-person experiences that are so, so fun that I love, working with people hands-on. I do a few like private experiences. Like I still do some one-on-one coaching, limited, but typically people start with the free tools or the 6-week, private group experience to get those just basics in. And it'll meet you wherever you're at, in terms of basic to advanced.
the basic stuff is so you can't do anything without the basics. Like I find I go back to the basics because there's so much to uncover, and even everything you're sharing. For me, I've been on the spiritual path for a while, but every single thing that you're sharing is impacting my me going forward right now. I think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe not, but like we can tend to overlook the basics or the fundamentals. They're probably more important than anything. I watch like professional athletes on TV, and when they're warming up, what are they doing? They're going through the basics. Whether it's like a basketball player doing a dribbling drill, they're doing it 5 years old. There's so much to this stuff. And Laura, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. Thank you for I love the video that you and your niece made on It's Gonna Work Out. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And you're just a sweet, sweet soul. I connected with you instantly. Like for everyone listening, we literally just met. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know this soul. You know, we've hung out. We've hung out. You get it. You get it, Laura. We've met before, and we have to connect in person when I'm in Southern California. We'll
Let's
have
do
to,
that.
yeah. Let's definitely do it.
I would
So go ahead.
No, I appreciate. Thank you for all the messages you put out to the planet. I mean, I love watching you on Instagram. I loved like I said, the unity rant the other day. I was like, this is my guy because you're like, stop pushing up against,
Yeah,
start like unstucking yourself and moving in this direction towards
yeah.
unity and love and expansion and acceptance. And I'm like, these are the ultimate messages, that
They
people need to
so are.
bring into their life individually and collectively. So appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so. It's so true. Like this idea of love is the answer. A lot of people like tend to look over that, and it's like no, no, no. A lot of us are missing the power and actual love and understanding people who think differently than you, and this, that, and the other. This whole, love is the answer. It's been dismissed because it can come across cliche, but it's one of the most advanced ways that we can connect with the self and connect with others. So the last question that I want to ask you is if you had a message, if you had like a megaphone to humanity, and it was a message that you can share that could, raise the vibration of the planet and people help people expand their consciousness, connect more with who they really are, what would that message be? Megaphone to humanity.
Megaphone to humanity would be that, like, even if you're experiencing a lot of negative or challenging feelings right now that feel heavy or the opposite of what you desire, that is just blocking your heart. That is just blocking your potential. That is blocking the love. That is blocking the happiness. So don't think that there's something wrong with you. Don't think that you have to go outside of yourself to like heal that. Know that that is just a block that is blocking the true love that's inside your heart right now. It's in there in unlimited quantities. You don't have to, again, do anything. You just have to learn how to unblock it. And once you unblock it, you'll find that happiness, maybe that you've never felt before. You'll find that love, that you may have blocked because of pain or other things. So I want you to know that it's all inside you right now. And, once you get unstuck and unblocked to you from you, you will experience another level of you that's so possible.
I got chills hearing that. This message, I'm like, divine timing. You went to Europe. I'm like, okay, this is a message that I needed to hear. So, and I know the listener can resonate with this as well. That trust, that unblocking of the heart. It's like we're perfect at the core. We're connecting with that. And Laura, I love, love, love your message. Again, you're a sweet soul. And we will connect in person when I'm in Southern California again. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. I really appreciate your time. It's like the best commodity. So let's spend it well together.
It sure is. And for all you listening, thank you so much for being here. You guys are on this planet with a divine purpose, and I mean that with all of my heart. Trust, 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 trust that. Trust all of who you are. This is an empowerment journey. It's about connecting with the power that resides within you, taking your power back. So thank you guys so much, and stay awesome and authentic. Alrighty, peace.